My name is Maria Jessop, and I'll be your platform assistant today. We are lucky to have Reverend Karen Gray, who will be giving our message today. And now I invite you to join me in a centering prayer. Please make yourselves comfortable. You may want to close your eyes and focus on your breath. Holy Spirit, we are grateful for the peace and beauty of fellowship on Mother's Day. We extend our hearts through you as we embrace mothers everywhere, especially those who are struggling. We join with the light of your divine love to bring hope. We ask that you show us how to join with and learn of mothers in healing this world. Amen.
Amen. Happy Mother's Day, everybody. So lovely to be here with you all. Thank you, Maria. So, Mother's Day, I don't think it's lost on any of us that when Jesus performed the first miracle of his ministry, it was his mother who got him to do it. Right? They were at the wedding in Cana. And his mother, we're told this in the second chapter of the Gospel of John. His mother came to him and said, "They have no wine, they ran out." And he says, "What does that have to do with you and with me?" And he doesn't seem like he thinks it's his problem. And she doesn't even listen to what he says. She just says to the servants, "Do whatever he says." And he just lets himself be persuaded by her certainty that she's right, she's the mom. And so what does he do? He tells the servants, okay, go get those big barrels, and he turns the water into wine. And he's a good son. And I guess he figures, it's a little wine. She's his mom, she deserves it. So that's how he handles that situation. She begins the demonstration, and notice how she handled the situation. She notices from the beginning that lack is not a part of this experience. There is no lack. There is no lack where there is God. She doesn't accept that all the good has run out. She expects more, she demands more, and she gets it. And I love that story, and I would like to see it in a dramatization, because I'd like to just see how is it depicted. Does he roll his eyes at all when she just says, "Do it"? Anyway, motherhood isn't always easy. We know that for Mary, motherhood wasn't always easy. It didn't start off easy. It can't have been easy to be a single mother without a lot of means, without an easy explanation for why she was having this baby before she had a husband, but she did it. Here's kind of how much we know about Mary. We know that she became pregnant as a young virgin. We know that she gave birth in a place where some animals were kept, and this place was far away from her home. We know that there's a scene where once when Jesus was 12, she lost track of him while they were off at a festival in Jerusalem, and then she had to scold him a little bit for separating from her. When she found him where he was in the temple, deep in conversation with the teachers in the temple, and that's really the only bit of active parenting that we see. We do see her being referenced a couple of times during his ministry, but it's really just when he's saying, "Really, this is my mother? Who is my mother? These are my brothers and my sisters and my mother, these followers." And then, most painfully, we see that she is there at his crucifixion, which is pretty unbearable. We don't know much about her, but we do know that she is much, much, much revered. There is practically a whole religion for her. And maybe it's because we only know one thing about her. She is his mother. That is her one identity. She is the mother. And there's kind of like nothing else to it, right? And she did no wrong. You may recall, she's got no strikes against her. In the 8th chapter of John, when a group of men wanted to stone a woman that they had found in adultery, and Jesus said, "Let the one who was without sin cast the first stone." And just then a stone comes whizzing by, and Jesus looks up and says, "Mom." Okay. But Mary is truly a symbol of perfection and of maternal care and compassion and virtue, of course. And I would add, interestingly, that from the cross, Jesus says to Mary, while Mary is standing there next to the disciple John, says to his mother, "This is now your son." And says to his friend, the disciple John, "And this is now your mother." Which I guess is speaking to the universality of this caring, loving relationship of motherhood that we all share. This is our friend's mother. This is our mother's friend. This is the kind of relationship that we all share. This connectedness, this symbolizing of maternal love. So she had just that one identity, and anything that we want from that notion of mother, we see in her. We can look to her as its ideal of being there, of sacrificing, of complete devotion, complete love and caring, the essence of feeling loved and affirmed, of the one identity. Whereas here in unity, we don't pray to Mary, we don't pray to Mother God, although we certainly see God as beyond gender. Some refer to Mother, Father, God. I sometimes begin my prayers with Mother, Father, God. And I would note that while Mary has the single identity of mother, God has the wide-ranging, all-encompassing identity as mother, father, source, creator, provider, protector, everything, the comforter, the advisor, the everything, and so on and so on and so on. And today is Mother's Day, and it is a day for celebrating all of this love and honoring family and special relationships, all of that we count on, that we are grateful for, that we look for. And it's not gender bound at all. Now, in my life, for me, it's about my daughter, Dorothy. And in early 2008, it was January, I think, and a member of this church, which used to be called Community on the Hill, COTH, a member of this church, Michael David, asked me if I would speak for the congregation, and he specifically asked me if I would speak about this experience of being a new mother and what it meant to my perspective, how it had informed my perspective. And that was nice of him to ask me that. And Dorothy was at that time about 6 months old, and I didn't know it at the time, but I was still just about to come out of a pretty intense period of postpartum depression. So things were really very heavy for me, but still beautiful, still beautiful. And there was just so much. I mean, I was living in a different world from anything that I had imagined prior to motherhood. So in order to put together a talk that would share what he had asked me to share, I decided I could distill it all down to 3 key lessons. And the first lesson was trust. Have trust in the universe. So basic, right? So basic. But it was really big for me because in the early months of my pregnancy, I forgot to have any trust. I mean, I was so scared. 45 years old is old for a first pregnancy, and I had not been expecting it. So I was constantly reading and researching about the dangers and the odds when you're having a pregnancy, a first pregnancy at 45 years old. I was looking for the one article that was going to tell me, it'll be okay. Finally, I realized, well, I will definitely have a bad experience with this pregnancy if I keep doing it this way. God has decided that this is going to be the time for me to be pregnant. So whatever is going to happen is going to happen. I really don't need to keep on fretting, what if, what if? So how many times in life do I need, and maybe it's true for some of you too sometimes, how many times do we need to have that reminder, that lesson to just, allow that we don't have to keep on wondering that we can just have some, just trust. You know, it's not up to us to decide, to figure out, to know in advance. And we decided, you know, I came home from a walk, I was walking the dog, and I called Randall at work, and I said, hey, I was thinking about the name Dorothy. What do you think of that? And I said, the nicknames are Dot and Dottie, those are cute. And he said, I like it. And okay, we'll add that to our list of possible names. And by the time she was born, no other names had even made it to the list. You know, that was her name, and it means gift from God. And what do you know? So she was born at 8.5 pounds. She was happy and healthy, and her first word was happy. So I just figure I eventually must have come up with the perfect formula for having a good baby. And I want to tell you the main thing I did, I ate a lot of jelly beans. So next time you meet a pregnant woman, give her that advice. Okay, second lesson, the second lesson that I got during that pregnancy was be here now. Be here now. Not so original, right? You've heard it before, but this is how it came to me during those early months. I spent so many hours just holding Dorothy and doing nothing else. As I said, postpartum depression, maybe that's part of why, but it just seemed like the right thing to do. I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't even watching TV. I had arranged, I had this really comfy chair, and I had the TV, and this is before we were living our lives with smartphones, so I wasn't even listening to podcasts, didn't have music on even. I just didn't think that should be the soundtrack for her life. It didn't seem like that's what it should be. I wasn't on the phone. I was just holding her. And it just seemed, I don't think that I would even suggest it to anybody, but it just seemed right. And it was just me and Dorothy, you know, and it just seemed right. It just seemed like the right thing to do. It also, be here now, also referred to not worrying about all the things that might be difficult. All the things, because when you probably know this, especially if you've had a child. Everybody will tell you all the things that are going to be hard. And you know, most of them didn't happen. Now she's almost 18. Most of those things didn't happen. I didn't need to do all that planning for all those sleepless nights because we only had one. I mean, she woke up when she was hungry, but that's supposed to happen, you know? It just, most of the things that we worried about didn't end up happening. And it took her years to teach me that. It took me years to learn it. So I finally had to learn just, you know, be with whatever this moment is. I mean, I needed to be present with her, and she was a very demanding child because she needed a lot of interaction, but she was happy. She wanted to, even before she was verbal, she needed to, you know, have interaction. But I remember one time talking to Reverend Lafayette Seymour and saying, you know, I had to say to Dorothy, we were going to do something, and I wanted to, you know, do something else. And I said, but you know, it worked out okay. And he said, yeah, she's reasonable. She was 4. And I was like, yeah, like that had never dawned on me that a 4-year-old could be reasonable. But I've heard that voice saying those words so many times, and then she's reasonable, just like, yeah, it's just not that bad. One time when she was 5, she was in kindergarten, and right outside her school, we were walking along, and there was a big sign. Somebody was advertising babysitting for date night. And she said, what's that? And I said, well, date night, that's because sometimes parents like to have somebody take care of their kids so they can do grown-up things. And she said, taking care of a child is a grown-up thing to do. She's so reasonable, and she made parenting pretty easy. And I just think that when she was born, God said to her, they're old, be nice. And she's been nice ever since. So, she has taught me to be a more easygoing, chill person because I found out from her that getting worked up about stuff was not going to help. So I'm trying to keep learning that from her. So as I said, 3 key lessons, right? One of them was to have more trust. One of them was to just be present right now. And then the third one, I don't remember. And I looked for that old talk, and I scoured my brain, and I can't remember. And I think, whoa, Could it be divine order? Am I supposed to take a fresh perspective and think, what could it be? What could it be? And, I gave that talk when Dorothy was brand new, and now she's getting ready to go to college. I'm so excited. And I just can't believe she's just so cool, and she's just such a nice person. And I didn't know that she was going to be so great. And, had she not come into my life would have still been great. But now that she is here, the whole world is so much even better. And so what that taught me is that apparently I need to not think in terms of limitation, because if Dorothy is possible, then anything is possible. I mean, I was 45 years old when she just came into my life, and things are better than I ever expected. So I think about that often, whether we're talking about professional life, creative life, financial life. I think about this often when I think, yeah, but Dorothy was possible. So who knows what's possible? She just tells me, her presence in the world tells me that, oh yeah, my imagination is not the max. No, there's much, much more. So I still try to apply that. And I'm going to keep on trying to apply that. So this is the story of my life, and I know that many of you know a lot of this because you've known me for a long time. And I know it's not just me, for all of us who are moms, for all of us who have had mom-like experiences and relationships. So even if it's a Hallmark idea, I think it's a pretty good idea to have a day when we concentrate and focus on mom stuff, mom energy. We celebrate the nurturing, the providing, the protecting, the whatever it is that we get. Or if we didn't get it from our moms, we think to ourselves, but you know what? I think it's something I'd like to get. So we go about finding it or giving it. There's a really wonderful place in the world for that beautiful energy of whatever it is, you can count on me for it. I will be here for you. I am here for you. That's kind of what that mother energy is. And this is the universality of Jesus saying to his mother and to his friend, the disciple, this now is your mother, this now is your son, that we share this. And this is what this community means to me and to so many, that we share that kind of being there for one another, that we can count on one another. And that's why it's really, really, really nice that Dominic invited us to be here today in person with each other and on Zoom and on YouTube, just to be able to reach out to and know that we have each other to nourish, to care, to love, to support, to pray, to all the ways that we care about each other and show each other compassion. This mothering nature definitely is part of what makes us complete. We all have it. Now, I recently discovered yet another aspect of mother, of what it means to be a mother. So a month or two ago, at the end of one of our Zoom services, John Bell posted one of our fabulous book drawings, and I won. And so he said, here's the book. Do you have it already? Yes, I have it already. Okay, here's another one. Do you have it? Yes, I have it. Here's another one. Do you have it already? Yes, I have it. And that was really embarrassing. And later, when I hung up, I was like, this is stupid. There should be a policy that you only get 3 tries and then, somebody else gets the book. But I'm glad I didn't think of that until after I hung up, because then he said, well, and then he had a gift, mystery book wrapped up in gift wrap, and he said, we're just going to send you this one. I said, okay. As it turns out, that one was the 10 Commandments by Emmett Fox, which I certainly did not have and was very, very happy to get. Oh my gosh. All right, so would you like to know what I learned?
Yes.
So Emmett Fox is my favorite. Every now and then I read a different book and I say that author is my favorite, but most of the time Emmett Fox is my favorite. So I haven't read the whole book yet, but I did jump ahead and read chapter 8, which is called Polarity. And it is all about commandment number 5, honor thy father and thy mother. I wondered what Emmett Fox would have to say about how we ought to honor our mothers. He begins by telling us that this commandment gives us practical instruction in prayer. I didn't expect that. He says that God is the father and the mother. And to know that will heal all difficulty. See, that's the kind of lofty promise that makes me love Emmett Fox. I'm just like, okay, man, give it to me. You know, he's just like, I'm solve it all right now. Now, after a few intro paragraphs where he's kind of like, first of all, just love your earthly father and mother because they are your father and mother, and they're probably pretty nice, but even if they're not, go ahead and love them because they are your father and mother. So he does that for a little while. And then he explains the unity stuff. The father represents the knowing. The mother represents the feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's how it is the practical instruction for prayer. I'm going to hold this. The practical instruction for prayer. We know what we're praying about. We've got to pray with feeling. We know and we understand what we are affirming, and we have to affirm it with feeling. Okay? The father, the mother. Let's see. And this chapter, it seems like it really emphasizes more than the importance of the mother, the importance of the feeling. But I take that to mean that that is what he observes to be missing most often, which I think would kind of make sense because in unity, you know, we are this practical Christianity and we have a lot of books and lessons and study. And so we might tend to emphasize what we know, the understanding, the intellectual. We might tend to do that a little bit more, even though I think we are a really feeling bunch as well. But we want to make sure that we do not overlook or lose sight of the feeling. And interesting, just last Sunday, I was a speaker at a different Unity church up in Baltimore, and I had spoken on a totally different topic. But afterward, you know, during our fellowship time, one of the congregants there came to me and he started speaking to me about affirmations, and he was telling me how he had a conversation with someone about how you can't just affirm something and say the words, you got to say it with feeling. So we had this whole conversation about that very thing, and I was like, yeah, and Neville Goddard is all over it. In fact, even the title of the book is something like Feeling is the Secret, right? Feeling is the secret. And the mental equivalent. I mean, there's a lot of materials, books, essays, articles written about this very thing. And Emmett Fox in this book says, thought has no power whatsoever unless it is accompanied by feeling. It is only the thought which you feel that demonstrates. Okay, so go ahead and take extra care to really fine tune the thought of what you are praying, the thought of what you are affirming. Go ahead, take extra time, be real careful, fine tune it, get it really clear. But don't just leave it at that. You got to really be aware of what is the feeling you are generating, what is the feeling that supports it. Because he says thought has no power whatsoever unless it is accompanied by feeling. It's not just accompanied by feeling, is it? It's empowered by feeling. It's fortified by feeling. It is populated by feeling. And this reminds me of something that I heard from Kaywood Black many years ago, like 20 years ago, and I might not get it 100% right, but that's how these things go. You kind of paraphrase them according to your memory. And this was about prayer or affirmation or manifestation or something, and he used this analogy of a cookie cutter. Maybe this will be familiar to some of you, where he said that, you know, the thought is like the cookie cutter, the outline, and then the feeling is like the cookie dough, right? That fills in the substance. I love that. So I wonder what Kaywood will think of that whenever he hears that I quoted him and Kaywood said this is true. So again, Emmett Fox's teaching is that mother, when we honor the mother, what we are doing is we are remembering, we are reinforcing, and we are saying yes, and we are allowing that to be a priority in our lives, the feeling that we bring to our ideas. And this is the practical instruction in prayer. So on this Mother's Day, take this into meditation. Find in your heart a prayer or an affirmation, something important to you. Find clarity in your knowledge. Find that in your understanding, and then find access to the feeling that gives it substance, the cookie dough. And I will, in our meditation, I will leave silence in the meditation so you can work on this. So what we'll do, let's move into meditation now. We can all sing together our thoughts, our prayers. We'll sing it through just once. And then I will lead the meditation with a tiny story and then some guidance and some silence. Everybody comfortable? thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Take charge of what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes a prayer. Now, get even a little more relaxed and comfortable. Allow your shoulders to fall gently, even while you feel your spine is alert but relaxed. Your eyes are closed or relaxed. And you are fully here right now, knowing that all is well. And this moment is yours. I want to share with you that when my little girl was about 4 years old, just unprompted one day, she said this to me. Mama, the other day, I felt a drop of love land on my head. It wasn't cold. It felt like blue light. And I think God put it there. And I think it's going to be there forever. And I just said to her, yeah, I think you're probably right. What could I possibly add? So just relax and feel good. And if you can, notice the gentle comfort of a drop of love landing on your head. Feel it trickle down to your shoulders and further down to your body so that you are fully embraced by this loving energy from your Mother, Father, God. Allow into your imagination the desire of your heart. Draw on the wisdom and the feeling that give fullness to this desire. And allow it to become more real and more clear in your heart's vision. And we'll stay with this for a moment. what is real and full and clear in your heart's vision can become real in your experience. And you can come back to it again and again as you choose. So for now, feel gratitude. Just soak that up. Gratitude for this moment in sacred silence. This beautiful, safe moment, surrounded by loved ones, secure, surrounded by beauty. What a lovely choice you have made to be here today. And then prepare to open your eyes, wiggle your toes. Maybe shake your shoulders a little bit.
Don't we have the best selection of music
Yes.
and of messages in this place? What is that beeping and feeling? I'm doing all of that and watching. It's wonderful that we were able to honor the energy of Mother's Day together. And I do want to thank Dominic, our host, for having us. As you know, we often have an offering blessing, and I'm here to lead the offering blessing. It occurred to me to tell you a brief story because it had something to do with what Aaron talked about circulating and feeling and thinking. And I still laugh about it, even though it happened years ago. I went on a trip to the Peruvian Amazon many years ago with a friend of mine. We contracted with a guide that I had met on a different trip. So it was a very low level, no hotel sort of thing. We were in little boats and we went up and down the Amazon and its tributaries, visiting villages and schools. And we were just out there with the spiders and the snakes and the lush foliage. I was in heaven. It was my favorite place. But the first day we were there, we were clambering in and out of canoes. It was a little awkward. I dropped the case that my camera came in. Not the camera, but the little soft gray case that it came in. And I realized at one point that day that I'd lost it. And I thought, oh no, I'll just have to protect the camera. So I was careful to protect the camera for about 10 days while we were going through the area. The last day we were there, we were coming back to go on a boat to be taken back to our main site to go home. And what did I see? I looked down and I saw this squarish thing on the ground that was white. And I thought, well, that can't be what I'm thinking it is because it's white. I bent down and I picked it up, which you're not supposed to do in the Amazon, but I did it. It could have been anything. It was my camera case. It had been there for 10 days in the same spot, I guess, where I dropped it. It was covered in the perfect layer of mold. And so it was a completely different color. That came off later, and I didn't get sick or anything. But I just remember thinking about that story a lot because it reminds me that no matter what you do in this life, you lose something, you give something away, something comes back to you at some point. Not always 50-50 or 1-for-1, but something comes back to you. So I thought I would share that to you because it always comes back to me as a sign of circulating good that we have. And isn't it good to be able to give? Again, I'm thinking of Karen's talk because intellectually I like to give. I like to write a check. I like to make a donation and know that I'm helping or I'm doing something positive. But the feeling, if you stop and get past just the thought and let yourself feel how wonderful it is to give and know that you will receive. At some point, you will also receive because that's what this life is about. It's a circle, giving and receiving.
Thank you. I'm filled with gratitude today. I look forward to those who are joining online and for those who are present and for Reverend Karen's message and for Carolyn's music. We come now to our closing prayer. This is adapted from A Course in Miracles workbook for students, lesson 137. When we are healed, we are not healed alone. And we would share our healing with the world, that sickness may be banished from the mind of God's one Son, who is my only self. When we are healed, we are not healed alone. And we would bless our brothers and our sisters, and especially today our mothers, for we would be healed with them as they are healed with us.